Hi everyone, this is Sam with Wine News in 5. Before I get to global news, I want to shout out a couple articles that went up on our site this week. The first is a fun piece from Jancis titled 10 Common Myths About Wine, which was a collaboration with the Financial Times. The other is a remembrance written by Walter for the legendary Barolo producer Lorenzo Acomaso, who died on August 8th. I highly recommend reading both. They're quick, informative reads. In terms of global news, today we'll discuss emergency funding for Corbières, Phylloxera in the Canary Islands, projections for 2025 wine production for France, plummeting U.S. exports to Canada, U.S. alcohol consumption hitting an all-time low, 3 new grape varieties approved in the EU, and the start of harvest in Franciacorta and in Napa Valley. First up, emergency funding for Corbières. In last week's newscast, I discussed France's largest fire in over 7 decades. The fire burned through 17,000 hectares, 42,000 acres across the Aude region of southern France. The Aude Chamber of Agriculture currently estimates that the fires affected around 1,500 hectares, which is 3,700 acres of vineyards in Corbières. On Thursday, August 14th, Minister of Agriculture Annie Genevard announced €8 million in emergency funds to cover crop and material losses not covered by insurance. The Aude Chamber of Agriculture and producers are also requesting the lifting of regulatory barriers limiting the purchase of grapes and musts. Discussions are underway that might allow producers to buy up to 80% of their 5-year harvest average so that they can supply their consumers with wine. Next, projections for 2025 wine production for France. Despite wildfires, hail, heat waves, and vine pull schemes, Agreste, the French Ministry of Agriculture's forecasting department, estimates that France will produce 10 to 17% more wine in 2025 than it did in 2024, which was the smallest harvest in 60 years. Current estimates sit between 40 and 42.5 million hectoliters, over a billion gallons, which is only slightly below the country's 5-year average of 42.9 million hectoliters. Burgundy, Champagne, the Loire Valley, Savoie, and the Jura will see the largest increases in production over 2024. On to Phylloxera in the Canary Islands. This week, Amanda Barnes, MW, reported for Decanter that Phylloxera, a highly damaging and widespread leaf and root feeding pest whose existence is responsible for 80% of the world's Vitis vinifera being planted on phylloxera-resistant rootstock, had been discovered in the Canary Islands on August 1st. Previously, the Canary Islands were one of the few viticultural regions in the world unaffected by the pest. Because of this, many vineyards are composed of old, ungrafted vines. Some of these are over 100 years old, which are now at risk of attack. Thus far, the pest has been identified definitively in the Valle de Guerra and is suspected to be present in La Matanza de Acentejo, both in the Tacoronte Acentejo DO in northern Tenerife. There have been 2 emergency meetings of producers from all over the Canary Islands. After the most recent one on August 13th, news listener Loreto Pancorbo of the winery Tierra Fondida emailed me to give me an update on what had occurred. Pancorbo stated that as of August 13th, only 18 vines had been affected, 14 of them in Valle de Guerra. All of these vines were in abandoned or semi-abandoned vineyards, and none of the affected vines shows presence of phylloxera in the roots, only in the leaf galls. The Regional Ministry of Agriculture and the Council of Tenerife have checked 3,500 hectares, 8,650 acres, and counting. It's expected that on Monday, August 18th, the Canary Islands Ministry of Agriculture will publish orders detailing a ban on moving plant material between islands and within the island of Tenerife itself, as well as a ban on taking grapes from Tenerife to other islands. Thank you so much to Loreto Pancorbo for the boots on the ground update. Next, plummeting U.S. exports to Canada. Until March 4th of this year, the day that Trump instituted 25% tariffs on Canadian goods, Canada was the biggest export market for U.S. wine. In 2024, the United States exported $435 million worth of wine to Canada. The latest reports from the U.S. Census Bureau show that wine exports to Canada dropped 97% between June 2024 and June 2025. On to U.S. alcohol consumption hitting an all-time low. Gallup's most recent poll on U.S. alcohol consumption shows only 54% of adults report consuming alcohol in 2025. This is the lowest percentage since the poll began tracking consumption data in 1939. As recently as 2023, 62% of adults reported consuming alcohol. That same year, 39% of adults said that they believed drinking in moderation was bad for their health. In 2025, that spiked to 53%. For those who do drink, only 29% reported wine as their beverage of choice in both 2023 and 2025. Next, 3 new grape varieties approved in the EU. On August 12th, the drinks business reported that 3 new grape varieties have joined the list of those in the official catalog of species and varieties of plants cultivated in France, making them authorized to be marketed in the European Union. The 3 grapes are Canaries Blanc, a hybrid white variety created in Germany, Magdalene Noir, a red vinifera variety originating in Brittany, and the Grape de la Canurgue, another red vinifera variety, this time from Tarn Valley in southern France. Finally, the start of harvest in Franciacorta and Napa Valley. On August 12th, the Franciacorta Consortium sent out a press release announcing the start of harvest in the region. The 2025 vintage has been warm and wet. Temperatures were normal in April and May, hot in June, and cooler than usual in July. Rainfall from January through July was up 31% from average. Quality is reported to be good, with grapes reaching higher than average sugar levels. Harvest has also started in the Napa Valley. According to Napa Valley vintners, on August 8th, both Mum and Round Pond began harvesting for sparkling wines. On August 11th, Truchard harvest Pinot Noir for rosé, and on August 12th, Benessere Vineyards harvested Pinot Grigio. A number of other producers reported plans to bring Sauvignon Blanc in this week. Producers aren't expecting to harvest red grapes until next month. That's all for this episode of the Wine News. If you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please become a member of jancesrobinson.com. And if you have breaking news in your area, please email news@jancesrobinson.com. The best tips I get are from you guys. Thank you so much. Bye.